Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and we're going to give this a try. I'm going to do this video for no other reason that I'm thinking about this right now myself, and I kind of enjoy this type of analysis, especially with races like this. So I'm going to just kind of talk through this and just describe how I'm going to be building tonight. And it's interesting that I don't even know what the starting positions are yet, and in a weird way, it's not going to matter all that much. I mean, it might, but so I've made the analogy between NASCAR racing and the sport where I would say I've had the most experience in terms of pure volume, and that would be harness racing. I actually got my gambling start, let's put it that way, growing up near the Meadowlands, and also near the Meadowlands was Yonkers Raceway and Roosevelt Raceway. And I must have been to more harness races than probably all of you combined. This is where I kind of cut my teeth, so to speak, as far as gambling goes. And this is before poker, before backgammon, before any of that. And the reason why I bring it up is the two tracks are extremely different. One being the Meadowlands and the other being Yonkers. And I make the analogy between that and harness racing and NASCAR because sometimes the NASCAR tracks are just totally different. Like Daytona was a track that just required, you couldn't really try to handicap how the race was going to go because everybody's kind of going to line up single file and everybody could change positions pretty much at will. Where there are other tracks where you could just have one or two guys just kind of dominate the whole race. And that's the same thing with harness racing. At harness racing, the Meadowlands was a 1 mile track. So if you didn't have a lot of speed, you could sit in the back and you could, come from sixth or fifth and get into a flow of traffic and win the race that way. And you'd have to handicap the race in that type of way. Where if you were at a track like Yonkers, which is a very, very small track, so much of the handicapping was basically how the race was going to go. Not just necessarily who the best horses were, but like if you had the 8-hole in a race at Yonkers, unless you're the type of horse that could get out to the front, you just had no chance, regardless of your ability. So you really had to handicap, who had the ability to get near the front, because if you didn't get near the front, you just were just dead. So that type of analysis with NASCAR racing really suits me. And this truck race is a good example of that. And I'm going to I'm going to show you why, and then I'm going to just describe how I'm going to be building tonight's slate. So in this particular race, what you have is you have two drivers that not only have the best trucks, but they're also might be the best drivers. And not only that, but, well, let's just start with that. So what's going to happen is it's very likely that these two guys just get out to the front and just dominate the whole race, okay? You could even make the case that I would say even almost a 20% chance that these guys run 1-2 almost the whole race and finish 1-2, okay? That would be Kyle Busch and John Hunter Nemechek. Now these guys, and this is exactly what happened last year, okay? These guys basically led all the race. And I think one time Nemechek won, another time Kyle Busch won, whatever it was. And they're being priced completely accordingly. Like you have one guy who's being priced at 15,000, the other guy priced at 12. So when you handicap this race and when you build for this race, you are going to have to make the decision of whether you're going to fade one or both of these drivers, okay? Because, well, you start, for example, with Kyle Busch. I mean, if he doesn't, for example, get out to the front and lead a bunch of the laps, even if he wins, he's not going to be up, okay? And likewise, if you're Nemechek and you're just sitting third the whole race, and then let's say you come in second, you're probably not going to be optimal, right? So you're going to have to make the decision of how you're going to build based on this particular scenario. Whether you believe that it's going to be Kyle Busch, Nemechek 1-2, and then finish 1-2, because that's really, the way for you to play both of them together. That's what you really need to happen. Not to mention get the rest of the lineup. Okay. And as you might imagine, if you play those two together, you are going to be forced off of playing about 2/3 of the drivers, right? Because if you play, for example, Busch and Nemechek together, you are now at 57.50 a man, which means that you're toast, right? You can't play any of these 9K guys without then, playing literally the bottom of the barrel. So if you go that route of playing Busch Nemechek, you then are playing most likely 4 value plays. And you're gonna have to get them almost perfect, right? And keep in mind that this is a build that other people are going to probably do. So on the one hand, you have to decide whether you want to go down this road. Second of all, you want to think about whether you can get different enough that it's worth doing. In other words, even if you get it right, like these guys are 1-2 the whole race, then even if you get it right, even if you try to pick the best value plays, even if you get it perfect, you might be splitting with 40 people at minimum. If you play this one particular build, especially if the place differentials of some of these value guys work out the way that they could, making them incredible chalk. So what I like to do in these situations is you'll see that I put 41 lineups together. Now you can do this. You could prorate this down, like you play 4 lineups, play 10 lineups, whatever it is. But in this particular type of race, and you'll see this in the truck races from time to time when you get Kyle Busch and Nemechek in it, is I'm going to be making 4 different builds. Okay. One build is going to be 10 lineups of Nemechek, Busch together. The other is going to be with one of them. The third one is going to be with the other one of them. And the fourth one, the hero one, is going to be with near 0. Now, I didn't, that's nothing mathematical. I'm sure that if I ran like a zillion optimals, you'd probably get, you probably would, or end up getting, probably all of them. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I would say probably all of them with Busch. Okay. And you probably, it depends on how the place differentials work out. You'll probably end up getting some with one of them, some one of them, but I'm just going to break it up 25% each just for funsies. Let's put it that way. And I want to go over some of the plays that I'm going to be probably playing, really regardless of position. Okay, and I'll show you how I'm going to probably be building. So unless things go really, really haywire, all right, probably the best value plays are going to be a combination of Matt Mills, Austin Wayne South. I put in Casgrella, but we go in other ways, and Timmy Hill. Okay. Now the unfortunate reality is if you take a lineup like this that leaves 0 on the table, this is going to be, again, this is something that's going to be duped like 700 times. If again, unless, let's just say that Timmy Hill qualifies like 12th or something like that, maybe people don't play him, or if Kaz Gralla qualifies like 8th, maybe people don't play him, or something like that. But this is the starting build really for the, I guess a lot of cash lineups, and it's certainly going to be the starting point from my Busch Nemechek builds. But what you really want to do in these types of builds is not play all 4 of the values that look good. Okay, you really are going to remember, this is trucks racing. This, anything can happen. Okay, so you need to make some, some viable pivots off of these guys, right? The problem is, again, is from a pricing perspective, right? There's not a lot of room. Okay, but that's the one build I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with that build, but I'm probably not going to play that exact lineup, because again, that lineup I put out there, and look, again, this is an early look. I don't even know what the starting positions are. Okay, but that's where I would start. But I'd probably, of those 10 lineups, I'll probably play one that's just sort of like that. But then what I'll do is I'll shuffle those 4 and say, okay, some lineups have 3 of those, and then some lineups will have 2 of those. And then I'll do, based on what Brandon and Pierce and Stevie and all of the experts say, and what all the projections say, and some ownership projections will come out later, then I'll just kind of just slide in some other dudes, in their place, and just hope I get lucky. Like Haley Deegan, Chase Purdy, like these guys I've played before. Jack Wood, maybe instead of all these, just maybe instead of Casgralla. Maybe Chris Wright instead of Austin Wade Self. Blaine Perkins I played from time to time. So all of these guys, I'll probably go ahead and slide in. But again, just you have to do your own research with which guys you think might start apart, which guys don't qualify. Obviously, you don't want to play the guys that don't qualify at all. That's going to be build number 1. Now, with build number 2, meaning you get one of them and you fade the other, then you get to start looking at these other value play, these other mid-range plays. And I just want to go over just a couple of the guys I'm going to be looking at in that range. Again, it's going to depend on place differential, whatever. But from what I hear, Crafton is probably going to be a good play. Tyler Ankrum, I heard a pretty good kind of narrative that he's getting a. First of all, he was in a, he wrecked last year, but he was in a crappy car last year, and he's getting a much better car this year. He's not really that great of a driver apparently, but he's getting a much better car. So he's someone that I'm kind of looking at. Stuart Friesen is a good kind of mid-range play. So if you play one of them, for example, then you could still play a couple of value guys, but now you open up these kind of mid-range type plays. Okay, so that's what you could do in the lineups. That's what I'm going to do that don't have both of them. Now, if you're going to fade Bush, and there are reasons, by the way, where you could fade them. Like, listen, if you're Kyle Busch and you feel like you're the best, I mean, you could do whatever you want, right? If you think you're that loaded in your car, you could basically take it for, take 50 laps, take a break, knowing that you could just go past anybody whenever you want. Well, that's good for your sanity. It's not really good for fantasy, right? Because if you're at 15,000, you got to lead like a shitload of laps. Excuse me, you got to lead a lot of laps in addition to winning to make that 15K work. So if you're playing Kyle Busch, you're really putting your, I would say your life, or you're really putting your lineup in his hands. You know what I mean? He sort of in a way controls whether he can pay that off or not, even if he's got the best car. And we talk about this with other sports. Like, it's possible that if he thinks he has that big of a car, then there's no point for him to just waste the whole race just dominating it. Just save it and then just go by whenever you need to. I've also heard, and I'm just trying to make the cases for fading Kyle Busch. He's got a team of cars, right? So some of these drivers, and Stuart Friesen too, but Kyle Busch has a whole team of cars that the way it works with NASCAR is you build up points along the way to qualify for the playoffs. And I think that there's a lot of things that go into it. One, finishing position, but also stage points, maybe laps. So there are other metrics that it's possible. I mean, I've heard of worse things happening, that maybe Kyle Busch would prefer, if he felt as though he can win this race whenever he wants, to cede some of the of the goodness to some of his team members or something like that. So it's possible that if Kyle Busch's car is that good, he might not even need to flex it. He might, you know what I mean, and maybe even still win the race. So again, this is speculation. So, but there are, not to mention the fact that there have been times where people have played Kyle Busch, and then halfway through the race, he committed a penalty and they move him to the back. Even if he ends up going through the field again and winning, all those laps where he is left behind for penalties, they add up, for laps that he can't be leading. So I'm just saying that there are situations where he can't win, where he doesn't win. And then if you play just Nemechek, then again you could obviously play more of those mid-range guys without necessarily having to go all the way down to those value punts. Like now you can maybe even get up to, I don't even get up to Zane. No, you can't get to Zane Smith, but maybe to Benedetto, you can get to him almost. Maybe you get a fourth really good driver without having to go punt. Okay. And that's going to be about 10 lineups that I put in. And then obviously the fun lineup, the one that you want to win the whole kit and caboodle, is you fade them both. Now it's gonna be rough, okay? To fade them both, you need like a couple of things to happen. You need, first of all, probably Nemechek's car to not be that great, and you need something to happen with Kyle Busch. So the thing is, though, is that if you do get away with it, you're gonna have uniqueness through, all over the place. Then you can play guys like, you can get Ryan Preece in there. You can get Enfinger in. I mean, you can get all kinds of balanced builds in where, where you don't even need to have any punts. Okay. So that's the way I am going to approach this slate is, again, I am going to be playing, one lineup, and I don't know which my big one. It's going to be the one, I'm going to play one in the 180, and I don't know which way I'm going to go. I'm probably going to end up saying that I'm going to play the lineup with both dominators, but I'm probably going to switch at the end. I don't like doing it. I'll probably end up playing in the 180, a lineup where I fade one of them. I don't know which one it's going to be. And then I'm going to play 10 lineups with both of them. I'm going to play 10 lineups with just Nemechek and 10 lineups with just Busch, and I'm going to roll with it. And this is before I even know what these starting positions are going to be. Okay. Obviously, if you get something wild with that, then you have to adjust. But that's going to be my approach. And what's good about it is it's a 9 o'clock race, so you got a little bit of time. You got the NBA, you can get all your NBA stuff in, and plenty of time to make your NASCAR lineups a little bit later after you get all the starting positions and all of that stuff. So that's it. I figured I would just talk through this with you guys. Again, I do not consider myself an expert on NASCAR, especially the driver-by-driver breakdowns, but I'm pretty good at aggregating this stuff. And based on what I've heard, there are drivers I can find to fit these builds. Based on what I know about how to play these things, I'm pretty sure that that's going to be my approach, at least from from an overall build perspective. All right, well, good luck in the truck race tonight. You guys play it, and that will do it.